Looking at UVTV, motherfucker. I'm in the keep spiritual ass news for my people on God Twin. Neon nigga for Feather Man, yeah. And then today I'm gonna be talking about natural science, and there is no such thing as reproducibility using the scientific method, because reproducibility, right, is a terminology that's underpinned, that's also closely related to like repeatability and stuff like that. And it's like a principle. It's like a principle that's underpinning the scientific method. And I already made a video talking about the scientific method and stuff like that. And y'all making yourself esoteric crackheads even doing shit like that, right? And I'm gonna be talking about how their version of what they call reproducibility and stuff like that, and try to make it some type of principle and do it from their way of their knowledge and their awareness of how they conduct things based upon their experience and observations is only going to be counterproductive. And yeah, I'm gonna be talking about the overall perspective of that. So natural science in itself is empirical science and stuff like that. So empirical science is just gonna be based upon their observations and their experiments, aka like you going through experiments. It's just your spiritual experiments and stuff like that. So based upon their observations and their hypotheses and hypotheticals and stuff like that, and them making these experiments and testing these things out like behind closed doors in a lab or some shit, right? Of them studying the consistencies of what they see from actually studying the organic things based upon natural nature and stuff like that, from what they know, and you and them paying attention to the empirical evidence, aka them trying to govern and rule over their observations of them being aware of what they see a consistency of and stuff like that, right? Based upon their scientific method, from them like being counterproductive using that method, aka making themselves esoteric crackheads and stuff like that from what they know, because science in itself is just having any type of knowledge of knowing about something, right? And a lot of people know a lot of ways of how to go about a lot of things, and knowledge is just no ledge. So there is no ledge, aka there's always going to be a whole bunch of awarenesses. There's always going to be a whole bunch of knowledge. Now it's about the wisdom that's applied to that knowledge to make it actually some wise or something substantiated that looks good, that looks like some new type of inspiration, that look like some new fruit, that look like some relatable thing that should be sync, that we all should be doing and stuff like that, that can add on to what was previous knowledge or science or observations to make it be more relatable. And just based upon us going through new shifts and stuff like that, it get more in sync with what's going on now than what used to work in the past. So we can have a foresight or an insight or like an intuition or a moving forward way of going to something else that can be better and more broader than how it was originally and stuff like that. So expanding out of a mind and contracting into a new mind, literally. So for the most part, when you are producing something, that's creating something, so that's bringing forth something and stuff like that. Now, everyone has their own sense of state of being and stuff like that. So from you having your own state of being and stuff like that, you had to create your mind. You had to create your organs and stuff like that. You had to create your state of being. You had to create, you know what I'm saying? Like anybody can be you, and you a sentient being and stuff like that. So from you making your own production quality and engineering, aka like your nerves and your muscles and your tissues and your bones and your organs and stuff like that, to keep these things living and pumping and breathing, and you know what I'm saying, like all that type of shit, right? You had to make your own pocket of that sentience based upon your individual space. So that's like your soul. And then the multiple spaces of you being in other people's spaces and other people's production qualities and stuff like that. That's the multiplication. So that's you making some type of product and production system that goes beyond just yourself and stuff like that. So you're doing something that's of service, aka self-service, instead of doing something that's self-serving. So when you do too much of that self-serving energy, it's just going to feed more into an ego and stuff like that, and it's going to be less relatable and in sync. Now, based upon us being creators and we being the observers, not us being like our creations, and then getting too lost into our observations and stuff like that, for the most part, right? You can't sit there and try to monetize or try to predict or try to like govern or try to, like, you know what I'm saying, like you can manipulate some shit, but after a while that's gonna get negative and stuff like that. You can make a synthetic version, or you can make something that work for you for the most part, and like, you know what I'm saying, like you and your people and stuff like that. But you can't sit there and try to manipulate and control. Like it's only going to lead to manipulation. It's only going to lead into manipulation and stuff like that, just based upon the genuine intent behind why you're doing it in the first place, right? So that's like two people making music and stuff like that, right? And they're both producers. Now, from them being both producers, they both can make the same type of beats and stuff like that, right? But the way they produce, aka the way they mix and master, the way they prefer to do the snares and the hi-hats, the way they choose to do the sips on certain pockets and stuff like that, right? You know what I'm saying? They're gonna start over time developing their own style and stuff like that. Now you can be inspired like by like Pharrell or like Timbaland or like fucking Kanye or some shit. You can be inspired by other people's ways of how they produce something, but you never gonna have your own method, aka have your own style of how you go about that thing. You ain't gonna have your own knowledge or your own way of how you like to produce, of how you like to create something for yourself. You got lost into something outside yourself. You got lost into other people's creations and other people's observations and other people's space of how they go about something. Now you can take some of their qualities and add that onto what you already doing and stuff like that, so you can be more relatable and in sync and stuff like that. So you can get better when it comes to your production quality or better at producing. But at the end of the day, you're literally like your own individual. You're gonna have your own way of how you like to produce. You have your own way of the type of environment you like to be in when you like to produce. Some people can work in chaotic environments. Some people like working in calm environments and stuff like that. When you get lost into a specific shape and form based upon a certain type of method of how to do it, and then after a while, that's gonna get burned out, because you can get fulfilled by something, but after a while, after you done burn something out, you're gonna expire it, aka, you know what I'm saying? It's only going to be alive for a certain point in time. So you're not going to be into the same type of quality. You're going to get better at production and stuff like that. Get better at producing and stuff like that. Just based upon the example I'm talking about with music and shit. So the way you used to produce back then may not be the same way how you produce now, because what? You getting more knowledge about something and you broaden in your awareness. You expand it out of mind and contract it into a new one. And then the more you pick up new type of like senses when it comes to like how to produce and how to mix and how to master and different EQ styles and stuff like that, and like different types of beats you want to get on that's outside of your comfort zone of what you like to make and stuff like that, and pulling from other influences than what you usually listen to and stuff like that, you make that reproducibility and stuff like that. You make some new shape and form, some new sense of how to go about these things. And yeah, it's like literally like you created a new type of style that added on to the style you already made and stuff like that, because motherfuckers can be into what blew you up in the first place based upon, like, okay, let's say hypothetically, like, you did production, music production and stuff like that, and then you like Pierre Bourne or some shit, and then people start like copying your sound or giving credits to your sound, or like niggas like how hot you is at the moment because this, then the third, and then a couple years later you move away from the thing that made you hot in the first place because you can't stay in that same pocket. You know what I'm saying? You have to switch that shit up. It's gonna get redundant after a while because you keep producing stuff in the same type of format over and over and over type shit, right? So this example just adds into the overall point that I'm trying to make about this scientific method shit, right? Because for the most part, I'm trying to get into this whole pseudoscience shit for the most part, of why niggas be in this type of energy of why they call something pseudoscience, because it's based upon some type of self-serving ego. When you sit there and you try to be like, oh, you need to go through these credentials. Oh, I got this PhD. Oh, I went to this institution. Oh, I went through this college and this, then the third to become this specific type of scientist and stuff like that. That's a specific version of what they did to get initiated into their methods of how they go about analyzing based upon their observation and stuff like that. Because all it's going to lead into is a lot of events of you going to their creations, aka you went to their college, you got their PhDs and stuff like that, you got their degrees and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got other people who also wearing that white lab coat type of energy and stuff like that, and went through their system instead of creating your own system and awareness of how you go about these things based upon your type of knowledge and stuff like that. When you try to discredit some shit or be like, that's like some pseudo shit because it's some different type of awareness or a different type of knowledge that you ain't heard before and stuff like that, that's some unwise, like counterproductive ass shit to say and stuff like that, for the most part, to even be in that type of energy, right? So after a while, it just start turning into some counterproductive type of energy for the most part, right? So you'll look at a person who didn't graduate high school or didn't get a PhD based upon their experiences and their awarenesses, aka based upon what they know of their observations and what they went through to have the type of mind that they have. And let's say they present some type of new type of knowledge and things of that nature. They ain't gonna put that in their type of books. They ain't gonna put that in their type of teaching. They ain't gonna put that in their type of schools and stuff like that. They ain't gonna put that in their type of colleges. They ain't gonna add that onto their type of professional way of how to go about it, because it don't match their way of the scientific method. So based upon the experiments and their observational studies and statistic analysis and stuff like that, so them trying to have some type of mathematical data set proportion of how to go about that thing to keep replicating it and shit like that, it's only going to turn synthetic. You're going to take it so far away from the natural nature of how it got produced in the first place and stuff like that, because you're trying to understand it and dissect it in a lab like a fucking frog or some shit, right? To try to see how you can reproduce it. It's gonna be something that's synthetic. It didn't come like naturally. It didn't come organic. And then you discrediting other motherfuckers and you call it pseudo if they present some new type of knowledge, because science literally just means knowledge of any knowledge of any kind. So if someone has some new type of knowledge, aka new type of awareness based upon what they experience, and they present it, but then you discount it because it's not said or presented in a certain way, or it don't match some type of scientific method, aka some esoteric drug substance and stuff like that, of some consistency and that high that you get off of like that specific version of how you go about it and stuff like that, you ain't gonna listen. So it's like what the fuck? Like, I don't know why y'all be in this hater type of energy talking like that. So like, I can make like other examples and shit like that. That's like someone who makes some like new sense of spirituality and stuff like that, that they call some new type of religion that ain't really religion. It's just people in a different type of space, and they have some type of spiritual creations, culture, like divination, aka like magic use, aka like they like to manifest and materialize in a certain way. They like to run their culture, run their businesses a certain way. They like to have some type of practices and stuff like that in their type of way and stuff like that. But because it's not the dominant practice and stuff like that, they're gonna make it look like some alternative medicine or something like that. Like it's always gonna go back to some pseudo shit, or they're gonna look at it like some witch doctor type of shit or something like that, or going against some type of medicine man because it goes against their system. But for them and their people and their culture and stuff like that in their tribe, that's what works for them. AKA the main point I'm trying to say, based upon reproducibility and stuff like that, right? You can't tell someone how to produce, how they want to create something, how they want to cultivate something. That's like someone telling you how you supposed to be yourself when you yourself. That don't make no, like, bruh, you can't like that's like it's literally gonna turn into some manipulator type energy. You can't tell someone how they gonna be themselves when they them type shit. You can recognize a certain pattern, and you can make observations and shit like that, and you can pick up certain mythology. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you start seeing like a line of events of a consistent thing that they tend to do, but they can just switch up how they do that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like the minute you start trying to predict and try to like foresee what the fuck they're gonna do when they even did the action yet, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's only gonna go back to that shit y'all be talking about when it comes to hypotheticals and like y'all hypotheses and stuff like that. You just assuming it's gonna happen, but you ain't actually see that shit happen and stuff like that. Now, your assumptions could have been right, but your assumptions could have also been wrong too. So the more you be in that equilibrium space, the more you can have that discernment of like, okay, yeah, he may or may not do this thing, but I'm still carrying on with this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just making a what? A observation. So it's like you can be right or wrong, but it's not even about like you being right or wrong for the most part. It's just like the overall space of like just having that discernment and knowing some shit or not knowing some shit. So from you knowing some shit or you not knowing some shit, you either gonna be aware or you not gonna be aware. And then that's what you and God at that point of what you're gonna get grace or not on a percentage scale based upon the intentions of what you was doing. Was you doing it off of like genuineness and you really didn't know for real? Or you doing it from the place of some manipulated synthetic type of way of you trying to get something out of somebody type shit? Like, yeah. So really, from an overall perspective, that's y'all getting stuck between the left and right brain and stuff like that. Y'all be trying to have some type of, and then y'all get so far left on the left brain aspect, aka y'all trying to have some type of logic or some type of mathematical proportion of trying to understand the laws of nature and shit like that. Even y'all trying to put a law on that, aka to have some type of order or regulation off of nature, aka something that's an organ, aka something that gets produced, aka something that happens naturally in the world and stuff like that. You can't do that. That's like you trying to take over the world type of energy and stuff like that. You trying to take over the world type of energy, and like you knowing how every single rainforest is gonna grow trees, how every single grass bush is gonna grow and shit like that, how every single seed that ever got planted and stuff like that, you gonna analyze every single tree snap and just suck the life out of that shit and psychoanalyze that shit to death. Like, no, bro, you ain't gonna reproduce some new shit focusing on that. You ain't never gonna reproduce some new shit focusing on that. It's like shit. Like that, it's literally like y'all trying to control Mother Nature type shit. And then when y'all be making up some type of laws of nature and stuff like that, based upon y'all predictions of the scientific method, based upon what y'all are aware about and stuff like that, that you can't control like awarenesses and stuff like that. It's like what I just said before when I'm like, you can't control someone's individuality of them being themselves when they themselves. That make no fucking sense. You know what I'm saying? Like what? Like that's like you trying to kill a bear and then you trying to predict how the bear gonna react every single time. AKA, when people go hunting and stuff like that, there's certain methods of how they can hunt a bear, but a bear is still a goddamn bear. And not every single bear know every single bear in the universe. So every bear is going to react different based upon the methods you use. The bear may outsmart your method, nigga. Like, so it's like, don't make no fucking sense. Like, oh God, like, it's like y'all so lost into the left brain and y'all logic and y'all scientific method and y'all turn into esoteric drug addicts and shit like that. And then y'all start getting to manipulating type of energy when it go against what y'all trying to predict. And then y'all like, well, if it go against what we trying to predict, then it's just some pseudo shit. It's not some shit that can't be science because we know this. And if it's not no repeat thing of this thing and shit like that, then we not gonna count that and stuff like that. We gonna keep on analyzing that. Put a dot on that. We gonna keep on data collecting. We gonna keep on trying to make up new statistics, a new mathematical proportion of how to find a fucking variable in some goddamn math equation or some shit. Like what? So it's like, yeah, in itself, when it comes to knowing about the natural natures when it comes to things, yeah, you got shit like you knowing about life, and you got shit about knowing about the physical and stuff like that. That's why they don't make up life science, which is like biology and stuff like that, and they don't make up physical science. So that's like learn about earth science and like physics and like matter and like You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like the physicality of shit for the most part. But like when y'all get so lost into the physical and stuff like that, that's what make y'all so confused when y'all be trying to identify these things and give names and titles to these things that based upon that name and title is always gonna do that thing, and then based upon y'all observation, y'all think is always gonna like do that thing over and over when that shit act on its own accord and stuff like that. That's like us looking at the sun and shit like that and it emitting heat and the friction between that and the earth and stuff like that. Or y'all trying to predict fire and y'all trying to predict water and y'all trying to predict erosion and y'all trying to predict the wind blowing and stuff like that. And y'all trying to show a certain weather forecast of where the weather gonna be in that area and stuff like that. And then y'all trying to predict the rocks and how they gonna move and if that mountain's gonna move because of this, that, and the third. Like y'all literally trying to psychoanalyze nature to death. Like what the fuck? Like it's not like no sentient shit. That's like y'all trying to predict some type of plant and shit like that. You can make observations about how to grow plants better or how to grow crops better because this, that, and the third, but all the plants ain't gonna grow the same. You probably gonna have that one little bush of plants and stuff like that that grow a little bit taller than everything else, and they could be the same type of crop. They could be the same type of wheat and shit like that. But that one little wheat in that one little area, it always like go out way farther up and expand farther out. AKA, but when it comes to like the you know what I'm saying? Like the wheat going out larger or it bent in a certain way, it's always in that one specific area, even though it's under the same type of soil and shit like that. Like, it don't make no fucking sense. Oh God, bro. So like I said, there's no such thing as reproducibility using the scientific method. That principality based upon the scientific method of how y'all look at reproducibility, y'all gonna have to stop. Y'all gonna go to hell trying to do that. You can't sit there and predict that shit. That make no fucking sense. You don't even see that in life. You never see that shit in life. So it's like yeah, like based upon like your spirit being your space and stuff like that, right? Your spirit like being in no shape and form. So it's kind of like that's like you trying to predict your favorite artist and what type of album they gonna drop and what type of art and what type of songs they gonna drop and stuff like that. Just based upon like the snippets or the type of direction and stuff like that. Or if niggas not fucking with their previous album and shit, you think their next album is gonna be the same type of shit, even though they created some new type of sound, some new type of style that was like not what it was previously and things of that nature. Like that. So if people do that naturally. Based upon what they be creating when it comes to their creativity, aka what they be producing and stuff like that, and what be going on of how they make a living and stuff like that, and how they choose to go about these things, what make you think that's gonna happen in nature? You can't sit there and predict that shit. Like there's nothing wrong with like having a job or you having some type of career or some type of productivity in your life and stuff like that of how it's gonna go. But based upon y'all trying to be into that industrialized concept and stuff like that, and trying to like monetize the shit and trying to make it so it can only come in our name and shit. AKA like some name brand type of shit, like, oh yeah, you gonna get this strawberry over this other strawberry because this strawberry got a commercial and it got like a name brand and stuff like that, and it's getting sold to us more because they paid for it to be on all these commercials and stuff like that, and they're gonna present it a certain way to make it seem like these strawberries is different than these strawberries, even though they both fucking strawberries. And the only difference is it's about the corporation who's willing to put the funding system behind the type of quality of the strawberries and stuff like that. And then even if they sit there and they like, you know, like pluck out the certain seeds inside the strawberry and shit like that, or like they put different additives and stuff like that, that's like the only thing it's gonna turn into. You just manipulating the type of shit and stuff like that. So unless you're trying to make some new type of plant, some new type of thing by making like certain cross sections and stuff like that to make it produce some new type of product and new type of flavor when it comes to the strawberry and things of that nature, it's always gonna go back into this argument for the most part. So yeah, there's no such thing as reproducibility using the scientific method and stuff like that. Right? If you want to reproduce something, you have to make up your own method of how to go about something. And what worked for you is going to work for you for the most part. Right? It may not even work for other people. So it's not about like a right or wrong type thing. And I want them to get out this bias so they stop all this pseudoscience shit and things of that nature for the most part, because they be sitting there thinking, oh yeah, we know this one method of how to go about something, but another motherfucker who may not even be no scientist is gonna have a whole different experience, whole different method, whole different way based upon how they grew up of how to go about that shit. And then y'all not even gonna count that shit unless they go into y'all corporations and then they get super propped up and tuxedo up and stuff like that and want to put that shit on sale so y'all can just end up making money off that shit too and monetizing that shit and put it on their contract, and then they don't even get the right percentage. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be some swindle deal contract and shit like that, and they not gonna get the right shit. They're not gonna get set up right to get paid the right way, and then y'all gonna set it up to have a certain narrative to get painted a certain way of how it get created and how it got monetized and how it got discovered and stuff like that. Y'all just discovering shit. Y'all just here on Earth. Y'all just discovering shit. Y'all just figuring shit out for real. But like, just because you experience that, it don't mean the whole fucking world experiencing the same shit the same way in that geographical location. No, motherfucker. It's certain people in certain pockets who experience certain shit. And they create it in that certain way based upon the surrounding environment and the atmosphere and how they created that stuff. When you try to make it some overall thing, like it's only these couple ways and stuff like that, it goes so counterproductive. It goes so counterproductive, and y'all trying to control the world and shit. Y'all trying to control nature and shit. That made no fucking sense. But yeah, like I was saying, yeah, it's the same thing. When I say with my one example, when I was sitting there talking about, that's like you trying to control how someone's gonna produce something, aka how they gonna make the song and stuff like that. All it's gonna turn into, that's like the epitome of when artists do stuff out their own volition, and then once they get signed to a major label and stuff like that, they want them to go by certain methods or go based upon what's hot right now and stuff like that, and change up their production style and change up their sound, change their style, and then because they want to make something that appeals to the whole world in their industry based upon mainstream music and their business, so they're trying to make all their money back because of this, that, and the third. So they'll make certain recommendations, make you be around certain producers. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then make you get so far away about who made you in the first place. For the most part, that's what it's gonna turn into. You can't tell a motherfucker how they want to be themselves. You can't tell a motherfucker how they want to produce some shit. You can't tell a motherfucker how they want to create it and stuff like that. It's gonna turn into, oh, y'all just use them as a tool to create them and things of that nature, because now they got signed into y'all industry and shit like that. So you just making them like sound super like watered down. Basically, you watering down, you gentrifying what's the original authentic individuality of what made them in the first place, of why we like their music and shit like that. So that's when niggas in they original core fan base, they start switching up, because he's like, nigga, you was doing some shit like this, but now it just sound like you just sold your soul, nigga. It sound like you trying to be mainstream and shit like that. You trying to be corporate up and shit like that. Like you taking away the individuality of like why we liked you in the fucking first place and shit like that. So you can't tell them up. You can't control and monetize nature and shit like that. You can't you know what I'm saying? You can't control and monetize somebody else's culture and what they created and the intentions behind what they did because of this, that, and the third. Y'all can't control the fucking nature and shit. You can't control animals, nigga. You can't control. You can control the crops, nigga. You can't make one dominant thing of a certain type of fucking strawberry and shit like that, of why it's better than another strawberry and shit like that. For the most part, it is or isn't and shit like that. You added more additives and made it more synthetic, or you didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, that made no fucking sense. The only thing is gonna turn into, you'll find different methods of how to make it grow better and stuff like that based upon the geographical location and the intention behind how you did it for the most part. But the minute they start getting into synthetic, self-serving, ego type of thing of trying to dominate everybody else of one type of method of how to go about something, it just completely takes away the authenticity of some shit. It completely take away the individuality behind something. You completely took away why nature is there in the first place. You're just making observations based upon what you see with your naked eye and stuff like that, and trying to make up methods to make it make sense and stuff like that without using no sense. You know what I'm saying? Like you only using your left brain sense, but you ain't using your right brain sense. You was not using your imagination whatsoever and stuff like that. You just trying to make some mathematical proportion variable of how to make some type of statistic to keep. You know what I'm saying? You ain't trying to make some new type of, bro. Hold on. It basically turns into, you ain't trying to, like, you so focused on the logical way of looking at it and the mathematical proportion and shit like that of the data and the analysis and the observations and the studies and the statistics, but you ain't busy trying to make a new type of statistic. You ain't trying to make some new type of fruit. You ain't trying to make some new type of crop and shit like that. You ain't trying to discover a new type of animal and shit like that. You focusing and dissecting all these frogs you found from the Amazon because of this and the third. You ain't busy trying to find more frogs. You know what I'm saying? That's of that palette and shit like that. You too busy dissecting and hunched down, focusing on that one thing instead of going outside. So it's like eventually y'all just gonna end up making some new type of fucking synthetic ass cloud or some shit. You know what I'm saying? They gonna try to make a mathematical proportion of how to make a fucking cloud. Y'all gonna make a mathematical proportion of how to make a fucking hurricane or a tornado or some shit. If y'all not already, y'all gonna try to figure out a way to how to do that. A new mathematical proportion of how to make a fucking lava from a volcano. A new mathematical proportion of how to make a new atmosphere, a new stratosphere. A mathematical proportion of how to make a new sun, a new moon. Bro, oh God, if they can do that, they gonna figure out a way how to do that. A mathematical proportion of how to make a new sun, a new moon, a new atmosphere, a new sky. A new cloud. Like, what the fuck? Y'all gotta stop that shit. So it's like, yeah, all these laws of nature and stuff like that, you can make order out of it. You know what I'm saying? You can make a regulation out of it for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can make sense out of it, right? But sitting there trying to like control or like monetize nature and shit like that, and try to, based upon some empirical evidence of some consistency because of this, then the third, and you think, oh, if we keep doing these same type of methods, it's always gonna happen every single time. Based upon us getting lost into the physical and shit like that, y'all ain't going nowhere. Y'all gonna stay. Y'all gonna come back right back here and shit like that. There's no, and until y'all learn of not getting too lost into the physical and try to make some new type of mindset aka you expand out of your mind and stuff like that, and then you make some new type of creation and stuff like that. We ain't never gonna bring all possibilities back down here on earth and shit like that, aka God on earth or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? To make it possible to get some new type of fruit until y'all start expanding out your mind. So the more y'all expand out your mind and not get too lost into the physical and try to make some type of mathematical proportion shit like that, that's never gonna happen. That ain't never gonna happen, bro. And then on God, y'all gonna find some type of, bro, I was being dead ass about that new sun, new sky, new cloud. Y'all gonna find a way to monetize that shit. I can see it. Y'all niggas, the way y'all think, I can see y'all doing that shit for real. So for the most part, yeah, I'm basically trying to say they're more in the mind of psychoanalyzing what they can see with the naked eye and stuff like that, instead of trying to put them, like, instead of putting more of their intentions and attention to how is this getting produced in the first place. And then the more y'all in that type of mind, y'all gonna get out of logic, left brain thinking, and actually try to use y'all left and right brain and actually have some type of common sense, aka make some new type of state of being, some new type of creation, some new type of way how to go about it. You're gonna be way more focused on, okay, how is this being produced? And in a minute you figure out how is this being produced, you're gonna try to figure out methods of how to produce this again, right? And not keep on trying to make observations in a way of like, let's try to reproduce this, but it's gonna be something synthetic. No, you're gonna be more in the mind of like, how can we, like, what was the state of being that something had to be in to create this in the first place? And the more you start thinking more like that, it's gonna make some type of new culture, some new creation method, some new type of fruit, because you more in that mind state of making some new type of statistic, some new type of study, some new type of way of how to go about it, instead of going based upon the scientific method. Because the scientific method is just a knowledge method, and then knowledge is just knowledge. You can know a lot of shit and be aware of a lot of shit, but it's not wise to do it like that either, though. So if y'all actually include everybody at the round table who have a lot of knowledge based upon their experiences, and instead of making some shit pseudoscience, or making some shit like, I'm not going to include this people culture, like if they from Africa or like some Native American, or I'm not going to add it on to America because it's not this empirical evidence, aka we can't govern the way and control it and monetize that shit because of this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, this is going to turn into some like counterproductive hater ass energy. Like I just said, we ain't going to bring no new possibilities and stuff like that. You can make it more possible to bring some new shit by trying to understand the state of being that someone had to be in to produce that in the first place. And then you actually start practicing that in real time, in real life and shit. And stuff like that. Like, yeah, bro, we need to bring, bro, we need to be in this type of mindset for real. But like, yeah,